you for that over-generous introduction. Thank you for inviting me to speak here. This topic that I was given about the future of finance is daunting, because finance is a big area, and it's always either way too easy or way too difficult to forecast what the future holds in store. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to reflect on what have been the needs and how have the needs been served in the past in the financial system. And one of the things that's going to come out from that is that collateral has played a very significant role. And one of the questions that we'll then discuss, so I'm going to talk about is what will this digital technology do in terms of upsetting or meeting upsetting this old order, collateral-based order, and meeting the old needs, which I don't think will change in new ways. So it moves fast. So here are a couple of enduring financial needs. It's not necessarily the best way to put it down, but people have need for funding, people have need for saving, people have need for ways to pay, and then people need trust. So these are the four I'm going to concentrate on. You could come up with your own needs and so on, but these are certainly some of the enduring needs that we have. And so I want to first talk about the funding problem, because to some extent it's very fundamental for the rest of what I'm going to say. I'm sorry, but actually the heading is a little misleading, but this is the very basic problem that a society has. There are people who have money and perhaps some but not very many ideas. And then there are people who have ideas but don't have enough money. And so how are you going to connect these two together? The money people, idea poor people with idea rich, money poor people. And it has, this is the one that I suggest two solutions to have dominated in the past. There is a very cheap solution. Or if you have collateral. It is a solution where the money person doesn't really know anything about the idea that the person has, needs the money for. If the person in question has enough collateral, so think about yourself, think about somebody which, yourself having an idea, an entrepreneur with a big idea, and starts to explain to you that he needs, $100,000 or whatever, and here are the reasons. I will tell you what a fantastic idea it is. The money person will ask, the first question the money person will ask, just hold on with your idea for a moment. Do you have a house? And if you have a house, do you have any equity in the house? Oh, you have 300,000 equity. Let's not talk anymore about your idea. Just give your house as the collateral, and I don't need to hear anything more about what you're going to use that money for. And so, in other words, collateral is a big way of cutting away the need to somehow explain what the great idea is about and why it should be invested on. And this is certainly one of the most used ideas. And it's actually as old as it's thousands of years old, this same idea. So this is an example of how a fundamental problem has actually been solved over the years. So I call it the age-old logic of pawning. Pawning means that you come with something and you get money in return of the pawn. And so the problem here, and one of the things I want to emphasize is that this is borrowed this money, and you could sell your thing. So this is a variant of the theme of what is an alternative way of doing this. Is you could sell, say, your grandfather's watch or something in order to get the money. But you may actually value the grandfathers much more than what the pawnbroker is willing to pay for it. And so there's a very brilliant solution to this. Let me emphasize, this is a really simple but also a very brilliant solution. You don't sell the thing to the pawnbroker without also getting the right to buy it back. So the need to sort of bridge the gap, the difficult task of haggling over at what price are we going to, exchange this task, will I be happy with the price? It all is also cut out by the fact that I get to buy back this grandfather's watch. So if the guy offers only $100 for something that's worth $500, in my mind, I say, okay, I'll do it if I'm allowed to buy back for $100 plus interest what I had. So the other aspect of this is what we would call this nowadays perhaps a collateral trade, but what I want to emphasize is that this is again a very information-sparse way of dealing with the problem of getting money. There's no need for price discovery, and there's no expensive sort of really spent on discovering the price. So this incidentally means that money markets, as we call them nowadays, such as repos and so on, which have been a very topical in the context of the financial crisis, they are really very low information markets. And this notion that somehow the idea would be, did you hear this, Tom? That the idea that you're good, okay. Tom thinks I'm crazy. The point is that don't compare money markets or regulate money markets based on what you see in the stock markets, which are based on an entirely different logic. Okay, so what happened here? Sometimes it's more. Okay, so this is there's another solution, an alternative solution here to the collateral, the cheap solution, which you have to go to if you don't have collateral. So this is a sort of not the first thing you do, it's the last resort. And that is that you get somebody who actually has collateral that the money people understand, and also has some understanding or willingness to listen to what your idea is. And that is some intermediary, could be a bank, could be a venture capitalist, and so on. Let me emphasize, those are the two features. That intermediary needs information or understanding of the information, and it needs collateral that people can, the money people can accept. And so the bank would be a good example, though in fact banks are not heavily into this game of collecting a lot of information. They do mostly mortgages and others, but venture capitalists and such are in here. And again, this is a significantly more expensive solution. That is, if the venture capital are no cheap people and no easy people to deal with either, and they are making a lot of money. So there's a question, people wonder, why are they so expensive? Why don't we just give more, come up with more venture capitalists? The answer is that it has taken them a long time to actually figure out what kind of ideas are worth evaluating and spending time with those ideas. So I'm sorry about this fact that I didn't realize that's how it's going to come out. So what I wanted to say just is bring home is the point that information and collateral are substitutes. So if you don't have collateral, you can use information, and going in the reverse, if you want to avoid using information, you can use collateral. And so these two forms are substitutes, and when you start looking at the world this way, it actually is a helpful diagram of thinking about, when there's plenty of collateral, you will see that actually information is less produced. So this kind of diagram captures a lot of the dynamics you see, and very big volatility in the venture capital thing. That when there is a lot of collateral. the other thing to be said about this little diagram is to say that rather few people have collateral. There's a limited number of people who have something that is so valuable that they could actually get money against that collateral. And so there's a shortage, as we call it, on safe assets. Now, fortunately, there's another side to this whole element. But the money person, I describe it as the funding person wanting to have this money. And there's another way there's another driver here, which is you have money, you have a lot of money perhaps. There's a problem of finding a place where to park that money. And so that's the other reason that there may be a shortage of safe assets. Let me actually jump over this. So here is a little picture of the shortage of private safe debt, or it's not yet the shortage, just showing that the composition of private safe debt, that is places where you can park your money, is that is a source of collateral, is something that has stayed fairly constant. That is, people have noted that safe assets are of the order of 30% or so of GDP. This is in the US, remarkably constant across the world. You don't see it probably, but if I drew it, this diagram has been done for much longer period than from '92. You will see that it has stayed roughly around 30% since the 1800s. But what has happened very recently, and that's shown in this diagram, is that the shadow banking has risen, considerably. And so the composition, it used to be mostly banks that were involved in this business. Shadow banking has become as big or even bigger than this. So the point is that things are changing with the technology, because there's a new technology underlying shadow banking, and that technology has actually enabled to make a change. But it hasn't fundamentally changed one of the things that shown in this graph, and I'm sorry, I will just have to jump about it. This is a graph that shows how much of the safe assets are created by the public, that is in treasury bonds, and how much of the safe assets are created by actually private financial institutions. And the answer is that they are strongly negatively correlated. So when the government really gets to spend a lot, there's a war or something else, the amount of treasuries go up. Trump is now planning perhaps to increase and Blanchard has talked about increasing it. It is, according to this graph, historically going to have a big effect on how much or it's going to pull down the private supply of money. So the bottom line here is that the collateral is really sort of the engine in this traditional financing system. If we leave aside the whole asset market, the stock market, and so on, but we are talking really about the funding side. And how will that change this banking system? And we have already heard that there's this new model that has been mentioned in various ways here. There's a new funding model where, in a certain unexpected sense, it is actually information that suddenly is the cheaper of the two. The collateral and information is still substituted, but information is the cheaper one. And the way it comes to be cheaper is that a lot of information is collected through this big tech, the unfinancial, the Alipay payment systems collecting data. It's not just that, it's collecting data with the digital devices in a variety of different forms that then are fed into algorithms or into AI, and they will give some sort of credit score that then makes parties makes it possible, and all this is automated, as we heard in some of these talks, that it just makes a credit score, a credit offer to the person that might want to have the money. And so it's one of the first times where we see that really you don't apply, you don't sort of prove that you are actually worthy of getting money. It's one of the first situations where actually Unfinancial or whoever it is, this algorithm has more information about you and your creditworthiness than you have yourself. And so that's a remarkable development. It is built, I should say, there's an antecedent to this, which is the credit cards. They also sometimes pre-approve you and so on. But what is happening, especially here in China, and through initially through Alibaba and Ant Financial, is this enormous, use of the data and the scale of this operation compared to say credit cards, at least in China. And I feel forecast that this is really a revolutionary change. And I just list here that one of the things initially, these are very small numbers, and which is, by the way, one of the advantages here is that they are small numbers, so you get this inclusiveness that has been discussed here, and means that it can go to a lot of different parties, and it has, of course, had an enormous impact on actually Yi, who was just talking here a little while ago, has shown how this has spread all the way to the western part and reached parts that have been unreachable before. Basically because digitalization doesn't sort of recognize distance, and it's scalable both up and down in the sense that you can transfer pennies, very small amounts, from which you can collect. So it doesn't have the traditional risk, and therefore where banks didn't want to go before, this institution is very able to go. And I think it's going to really have a transformative effect on the bottom of the pyramid in the income distribution. I don't want to say this talk will fintech threaten banking. Given the time I have left, let me just jump over this and say that basically the answer is no, because fintech is going to change banking. It's going to go in partnership with banking initially, at least for a fair amount of time. I think banks, by the way, is very happy to give up on the payment system in general, because they haven't really recognized the value, the informational value of payment systems, as the Chinese companies. But I think the bigger threat, if any threat, is talked about comes from the Ant Financial, Amazon, Facebook, and so on, those that have access to these big data resources. This is a game that will still be played out. I don't want to say and discuss this diagram, just say that when you see in the US, fintech actually taking a big slice out of the mortgage industry, but I don't think it's in some sense not that remarkable. The one thing I wanted to mention at the end is that there's sort of this proliferation of what one might call private money or very constrained money. There are payment systems partly, you may have heard about UBS having this consortium that is using its own fully backed, unit of account to actually speed up payment systems in the financial system. In the financial system, and especially I think this has to do with going across the board, going across the boundaries across countries. So it may be already running, but it's likely. It sounds like a very sensible thing to do. We hear other similar things. J.P. Morgan has its own plans, Canada has its own, and so on. So there's some kind of new token or currency that is serving some specific purpose. I think that these are going to be run by trusted parties like J.P. Morgan, UBS, and so on. So when we'll hear more about blockchain, but I was glad to see that Jack Ma also had no believe in the block, or didn't think that blockchain that is trustless is really something that is going to play a big role for the time being. The one thing I wanted to say is that, that there's just hundreds of little points that are coming around that serve, I think, a very interesting purpose. So this is the organizational design. So there's, for instance, equal capacity exchange. There's various ICOs that are coming around. And they are not, you know, scams or something like that. They serve a purpose of bringing people that may not know each other, parties that may not know each other, into the same system. Or that's at least the idea. That is, you come here, and if you come into this particular group, this capacity exchange, equal capacity exchange, you will first perhaps be given some token, or you will buy some token with which you can then you are just using this token. So this is a little bit like babysitting pools. You know, this is, you come here and you get registered that, you know, you are not counting things, you are not paying any money, you are just getting some token or a ledger where it's registered. And as I said, this is to bring together people with a shared interest in some kind. And so that's the way I'm interpreting it. I'm forecasting that this is going to be much bigger because it's very convenient to do it in a digital world. But that's just my guess. But they are not something that has, one should think about this as being very much to do with say, finance itself. I think it is an organizational structure. So I will have to jump up. Let me just say, I think basic needs will stay the same. They will be solved in new ways. That's the theme. And then I think that well, you see that there are a couple of us, but I think the way I would go about studying these questions about forecasting is to look at why are we doing what we are doing, why have we been doing what we have been doing, and from that derive what the needs are and what the problems are that we need to solve. Thank you very much.